It is a scene that is easily misunderstood. In the wilderness, a muscular man holds two blood-soaked little girls in his arms, constantly stroking their heads. With no other suspects around, the search team immediately decides the man before them must be the perpetrator. The girl's father, unable to bear it, rushes forward and throws wild punches. Strangely, not only does the man offer no resistance, but he also speaks with a face full of remorse.
I tried to take it back, but it was too late.
But obviously, the evidence is concrete. Everyone saw what happened, and no one believes he was actually trying to save the two children.
You under arrest for murder.
However, no one knows that they haven't caught a demon, but an angel sent by God to save the world. Soon, the man is sentenced to prison and scheduled for execution in a month. Even stranger is that this burly man, named John, had never been seen by anyone before the crime, nor are there any records of him. John is like a legendary giant who suddenly descended among people. He is taller than any guard in the prison. Everyone present has to look up to see his face, and his invisible, oppressive presence makes everyone feel fearful. The captain, Paul, is also startled.
Your name is John Coffey.
Yes, sir, boss. Like to drink, only not spelled the same.
However, compared to his fierce appearance, John's heart is unexpectedly soft. He not only speaks cautiously, but also admits he is afraid of the dark, hoping the lights won't be turned off at night. The childlike request makes the guards want to laugh. Only after learning that the corridor lights stay on all night does John finally relax. The guards remove his handcuffs. Perhaps to express gratitude, John extends his right hand. He wants to shake hands with Paul. The atmosphere instantly becomes tense again. Everyone hints to Paul not to reach out, because given John's size, if he has bad intentions, Paul might be forced into early retirement on the spot. Eventually, Paul holds John's hand, unaware that with this grip, John learns everything about Paul, a moment that will change Paul's life. Before leaving, John speaks to Paul.
I couldn't help it, boss. I tried to take it back, but it was too late.
John's words make Paul curious. Such a timid man feels completely out of place as a death row inmate. So he begins to investigate the case records, but the contents are no different from the facts Paul heard. On an early morning, a farmer's two daughters suddenly went missing, leaving only bloodstains in the house leading to a broken wooden door. The farmer called the police immediately, and the sheriff led a search team to track them down, finally witnessing the cruel scene. The dark side of human nature makes Paul feel disbelief. In the prison where Paul works, all the inmates are prisoners on death row. The guard's job is very simple. Apart from watching the prisoners, it is day after day of drills. Here, prisoners are not executed by firing squad, but by the more painful electrocution. The prisoners' hands and feet are strapped to a wooden chair named Old Sparky, and the hair on top of their head is shaved before hooding to accommodate a wet sponge, allowing the current to swiftly pass through the body. Once the prisoner feels the pain, the torture doesn't last too long. During the execution, the gallery is filled with the victims' families to appease the public's anger. Aside from that, the only fun in the prison is a mouse. It is the only living thing in the prison besides the inmates and guards. Everyone likes this little guy. It always appears suddenly to beg for cookies from the guards, then vanishes into the crack of the solitary confinement door. Paul and the others emptied the solitary room, but couldn't find it. Only a guard named Percy dislikes the little guy, and has even tried to kill it several times. Percy is a connection hire, so he acts like a tyrant in the prison. When John entered the prison, Percy was the one shouting. He also kept rushing John with his baton. Everyone sees this, but afraid of meddling and losing their jobs, Paul uses various excuses to send Percy away. Unexpectedly, Percy, simply because he was unhappy, directly used his baton to break another prisoner's fingers. The prison is full of death row inmates carrying lives on their backs, and the looming execution makes everyone nervous, meaning prisoners could explode at any moment. So out of humanitarianism, the guards try to soothe them and keep things quiet, letting them walk their final journey in peace. Only, Percy always causes all sorts of noise and trouble. The kind guards can't stand it, as this goes against the long-standing rules. Paul warns Percy again not to mess around. Compared to a prison, this place is more like a hospital or an intensive care unit.
I think of it as a bucket of piss to drown rats in. That's all. Anybody doesn't like it, You can kiss my ass.
Vice Captain Brutal hears this and can't bear it anymore. He wants to teach this lawless guy, who doesn't know how to respect others, a lesson. But if he strikes him, he will lose his job. so Paul quickly stops Brutal. Percy is the public enemy in this prison, while Paul carefully maintains their relationship, trying to delay the inevitable fallout as long as possible. Soon, the day comes for the execution of prisoner Bitterbuck. He is shaved on the top of his head. In a few minutes, he will sit on the electric chair under the gaze of the crowd and pay the price for his mistakes. Paul tries his best to soothe Bitterbuck's emotions. Bitterbuck touches the top of his head. In this moment, perhaps he truly realizes his mistake. In the final moments of his life, he doesn't cry, but inexplicably thinks of his first love. He regrets wasting so much time when he clearly had so many chances. When the water-soaked sponge covers his head, Bitterbuck begins to gasp uncontrollably, a sign of fear of death and final repentance. The spectators below have been waiting for this moment for a long time.
Roll on, two.
With a command, the electrocution begins, and the current instantly courses through Bitterbuck's body. This process may be repeated several times, with a doctor checking in between, until the prisoner completely loses his life. And Percy remains as annoying as ever. Even though the prisoner has paid for all his crimes and become a cold corpse, Percy continues to mock him with sarcasm nearby. Brutal shoves Percy away. Paul knows that if this continues, a bigger conflict will erupt sooner or later, so he hopes Percy will find another job. But Percy isn't satisfied with just watching someone die. He demands to lead the execution himself next time. Otherwise, he will keep pestering everyone here until they make a mistake and get fired. Paul turns and leaves without answering. The next day, something incredible happens in the prison. That little mouse is actually tamed by a prisoner named Dell. Under Dell's command, the mouse not only runs back and forth on his arm, but can also roll a wooden spool. Dell calls him Mr. Jingles. John thinks this is simply a circus mouse. Just as everyone is happy, Percy's appearance makes the atmosphere tense. Dell knows Percy has always wanted to hurt Mr. Jingles, but just hasn't found the chance. Soon, a new prisoner arrives at the prison. The report says Wild Bill is an unpardonable scumbag who unalived 3 people during a robbery. But when the guards arrive, they find Wild Bill sitting in a mental hospital, eyes unfocused and drooling, even needing the guards' help to put on his prison uniform. They all think Wild Bill might have gone crazy, and only John keeps talking to Paul. Sure enough, just as the cell door opens, Wild Bill instantly sobers up. It turns out he was faking madness the whole time, and while the guards are off guard, he launches a sneak attack, putting one guard in a chokehold. In the chaos, Paul is attacked, in so much pain he can barely stand. Another older guard is also knocked unconscious. Paul has to pull his weapon to threaten Wild Bill while urging Percy to act quickly. But Percy, usually arrogant and bossy, becomes a coward at the critical moment, too scared to move a muscle. The hostage is being strangled by Wild Bill until he spits blood. Fortunately, Brutal arrives in time, or Paul might have actually fired his gun. Wild Bill makes everyone suffer on his first day in prison. Paul forces himself to stay calm and tells everyone to go to the infirmary for a checkup. But the moment the door closes, he collapses to the ground in pain. It turns out, Paul suffers from a severe bladder infection. Every time he uses the bathroom, it is excruciating, and he can barely pass a little urine after a long time. When it's severe, he wakes up in pain in the middle of the night. Paul can't remember how many times he has fallen to his knees in pain on the way to the bathroom at night, forced to relieve himself right there. Not to mention how his marital life is affected. And that kick just now undoubtedly caused him immense agony. It is precisely at this moment that John keeps calling for Paul, saying he has something very important to tell him. Paul stumbles over.
What do you want, John Coffey?
Just to help.
John suddenly grabs Paul, reaching his hand down, and Paul is too weak to resist. Dell across the hall sees this and thinks John wants to commit violence, so he immediately shouts for help. But what happens next leaves him speechless. As if a miracle, the nearest light in the cell gets brighter and brighter. Paul also feels as if something is being sucked out of his body. Until the light bulb can't take it anymore and explodes, John finally releases his hand. Then he sits exhaustedly on the bed and spits out a swarm of filthy insects. They hover briefly before vanishing into the air. John says nothing more, indicating he has cured Paul, then falls into a deep sleep from exhaustion. Walking into the bathroom again, Paul hasn't felt this relieved in years. That night, his wife is also very satisfied. John managed to cure an illness that years of medical treatment couldn't fix, which makes Paul wonder even more, could he really kill someone? So the next day, Paul takes a sick day specifically to drive to the home of the lawyer who defended John. Paul wants to know the details of the case and how such a kind person could commit such a crime. The lawyer doesn't answer Paul's question directly, but instead talks about a dog his family once owned. The dog was cute, and his whole family loved it very much. They lived together for a long time, but suddenly one day, the dog went crazy for no reason and directly took one of his son's eyes. If it had been any later, a life might have been lost. Perhaps John hadn't unalived anyone before, but his dog hadn't bitten anyone before either. The lawyer warns Paul that human evil is unimaginable. However, to thank John for curing him, Paul still brings a return gift. It was cornbread, made by his wife's own hands, which is simply a treasure in prison. John shares some with Dell and Mr. Jingles. This makes Wild Bill, who has nothing, very dissatisfied, and he spits directly in Paul's face. Paul never holds a grudge against death row inmates, but this makes Wild Bill push his luck even further. Every time he seizes an opportunity, Wild Bill tries every possible way to humiliate the guards. Finally, Paul has to reactivate the long-abandoned solitary confinement cell. But Wild Bill is pure evil, and he shows not a shred of remorse. Once, when Percy passes by, Wild Bill doesn't indulge him. He grabs Percy directly, his mouth full of unbearable obscenities. Paul immediately draws his gun to stop it. Wild Bill immediately releases Percy. He just wanted to have some fun. But in just that short moment, Percy was so scared he wet his pants. Coupled with Percy's previously arrogant demeanor, at this moment in front of everyone, Percy has completely lost face. Dell laughs the loudest because Percy had previously broken his fingers. Crying, Percy swears to heaven that if anyone dares to speak of today's events, he will have everyone fired, and he warns Dell that sooner or later he will make him pay. But the very next day, Dell gets lucky. Somehow the news spread, and the prison leaders actually come to watch him and Mr. Jingles perform. Dell seems to have found a sense of worth again. However, this is actually a white lie by Paul, and the leaders are actually other guards in disguise. Because the day of Dell's execution is approaching, Paul suggests that afterwards, Mr. Jingles can be sent to a circus, where adults pay 10 cents and children 2 cents to watch. There will be many of Mr. Jingles' companions there. Paul is just that kind. He hopes Dell can leave in peace. Perhaps Dell knew all along it was fake, but he still chose to believe it with a smile on his face. But the next second, when Mr. Jingles runs out to fetch the spool, Percy stomps Mr. Jingles flat, completely ignoring Dell's painful wails behind him. While everyone falls silent, John reaches out his hand. Paul seems to suddenly remember something. After a moment of hesitation, he cups Mr. Jingles in his hands and slowly walks towards John. No one understands what Paul is doing, except for Dell, who keeps begging John to save Mr. Jingles. Then, a miracle happens again. When John takes Mr. Jingles, the mouse's tail actually starts to twitch, followed by a dazzling light. Just like when he cured Paul last time, John finally spits out many insects from his mouth. Everyone sees it with their own eyes, and no one can explain why a divine miracle would occur in this prison that symbolizes death. Recovering their senses, Paul and Brutal take immediate action. They pin Percy down hard. If Percy doesn't request a transfer himself, they will expose the fact that he wet his pants, as well as the fact that he stood by while Wild Bill attacked the guards. By then, even Percy's governor relative won't be able to help him, and the colleagues would at most be fired, going down together. The cowardly Percy is clearly intimidated. They reach an agreement. After Percy presides over the next execution, he will voluntarily apply for a transfer. Unfortunately, this time it is Dell's turn. He pets Mr. Jingles one last time, then hands him over to John for safekeeping. Because the floor leading to the execution chamber is covered in green paint, they call this the Green Mile. Who knows how many prisoners have repented for their past mistakes on this road. That night, a heavy rainstorm hits, and the victims' families are already impatient. Even worse, when Dell enters, he discovers that his executioner is actually Percy. As the electrocution is about to begin, everything is ready. Before putting on the hood, Dell doesn't forget to remind Paul to send Mr. Jingles to the circus. Yet even at the very last moment, Percy refuses to let Dell off the hook. He punctures the lie right in front of everyone, leaving Dell without a shred of hope. Even more hateful is that Percy clearly knows the sponge must be soaked in water before execution, but he doesn't do it. No one notices this, but Paul feels something is odd, wondering why there isn't a single water stain on the floor. He suddenly has a bad premonition, and sure enough, the moment the switch is flipped, the dry sponge does not let the current pass through Dell's body properly. Paul wants to stop it, but once the electrocution begins, it cannot be stopped at will. Meanwhile, in the cell, Wild Bill is abnormally excited. John, however, is trembling all over, as if he can feel Dell's pain. Mr. Jingles is scared enough to flee the prison. As Dell's condition becomes increasingly horrific, people gradually realize this is simply purgatory. Even the victims' families can't watch anymore, and the audience wants to flee. Percy turns his back, unable to watch. Paul rushes forward and holds Percy down, making him realize exactly what he has done. Just like that, while Dell paid off all his sins, he also left this world burdened with heavy malice. Afterward, Percy pretends he didn't know anything. His attitude makes Brutal lose his patience, and he punches Percy hard. Even Warden Hal couldn't stand watching it anymore. Fortunately, Percy will be transferred soon, and no one wants him gone more than Paul. When Paul returns to the cell, he finds John already in tears, able to feel Dell's pain. This ability to empathize almost 100% makes John always see darkness and malice, so he is always weeping for this world filled with suffering. Unfortunately, pain will always be with us. The next day, Paul goes to visit Hal. The two have always been close friends, but Hal's wife, Melinda, now suffers from a brain tumor, often becoming delirious and unable to even walk on her own. At her worst, she spews profanities, unaware of what she is saying herself. Paul cannot bear to see his friend suffer such torture, so he comes up with a bold idea. He invites his colleagues to dinner, and when John is mentioned, everyone instantly understands. To Paul's surprise, everyone supports his plan as they all want to witness a miracle again. So Paul first drugs Wild Bill with sleeping pills and conveniently locks Percy in solitary confinement under the pretext of revenge. Then the group readies their weapons. Now they just need to explain the situation to John to leave, but John seems to already know everything. However, an accident occurs when Wild Bill, who was supposed to be knocked out, actually wakes up. He grabs John's hand, and in that split second, John convulses uncontrollably as he sees all of Wild Bill's sins. The guy standing before him is a total demon who absolutely cannot remain in this world. The next second, even the hanging light shatters on the floor. Just as everyone is at a loss for what to do, Wild Bill faints. They successfully walk out the main gate. John points at the starry sky with great joy. He loves looking up at the stars. On the way, John doesn't forget to scoop up a handful of fallen leaves, smelling the fragrance of the soil after the rain, while fireflies and cicadas chirp in the grass. The guards are carrying guns, but they serve no purpose. Paul wants to tell John the purpose of the trip, but John already knows it all. Hearing a noise outside, Hal comes out with a weapon to investigate. He can't believe John has escaped from prison, nor can he believe this big man can cure a brain tumor that doctors had no solution for. But his wife's painful wails still make Hal choose to believe. When there is absolutely no way to save his loved one, he can only pray that a miracle truly exists. They stand aside and watch. At this point, Melinda is tortured beyond recognition by the illness, but upon seeing John, she speaks. John slowly bends down, and then a divine miracle truly appears. An incredible light begins to surge, the lamps overload, and even the clock downstairs stops ticking. When it ends, Melinda has returned to her former self. The beautiful and charming wife has returned to Hal's side. But John does not spit out the filth. To express her gratitude, Melinda gives John a necklace. It seems they have met each other in the darkness. However, there is no time to catch up now. They must immediately move to send John back to prison, or the consequences will be unimaginable if discovered. Fortunately, everything goes smoothly, but everyone is also prepared to lose their jobs. Percy will surely report to the higher-ups that he was locked in solitary confinement. It is only a matter of time. However, a terrible thing happens. For some unknown reason, John acts like he has suddenly gone mad and chokes Percy by the neck, and the group cannot stop him even with combined effort. Then John gets closer and closer to Percy. The filth John never spat out is now all transferred into Percy's mouth. As John collapses to the ground from exhaustion, Percy also loses his strength, his eyes empty and mind unclear, as if his consciousness has been stolen by the filth. Under everyone's gaze, Percy walks away little by little and stops in front of Wild Bill's cell. This annoys Wild Bill, who has just woken up, very much. Everyone is stunned by this sudden scene. By the time they subdue Percy, Wild Bill is already lying in a pool of blood, never to stand up again. Only then does the filth drill out of Percy's body. They represent the indelible malice of the human world, permeating the air at all times. Paul knows this was all John's doing, and wants to know clearly why John did this. John extends his hand. He wants Paul to see for himself exactly what happened. John can not only save people, but also easily take a life. So no one knows if holding his hand will be dangerous. But just like their first meeting, kind Paul chooses to believe John. Almost in an instant, a surge of energy drills into Paul's body. To let Paul see the events, John gives him a part of his gift. Immediately, the light bulbs in the room begin to burst one by one, and Paul sees everything. It was an incredibly happy family of 4, a hardworking farmer, a virtuous wife, and lively twins. They should have remained happy, but a demon was hiding beside them. Wild Bill was not only a robber but a total pervert who targeted the 2 young sisters. During the day he worked honestly and behaved, but at night he revealed his true colors. He cut the wire mesh and sneaked into the room. The subsequent images are too hard to look at, and Paul struggles with all his might to break free, unable to bear such malice and pain. Yet John is enduring this every single moment. Paul doesn't know how to answer John, nor can he answer anything. Soon the police arrive at the prison. Since Wild Bill was already about to be executed, naturally no one cares. As for Percy, he has become insane and will live in a mental hospital from now on. However, soon, John's execution day is approaching, but he is innocent, and the real killer is already dead. Paul hopes to do something for John. Paul gives John a chance to escape, but in the end, John only hopes Paul will recite a prayer for him. John knows Paul's pain and trouble at this moment, but Paul need not struggle because John has already decided to end it. Perhaps to help Paul, or perhaps he truly has an unfulfilled wish, John asks to watch a movie. People in the movie dance gracefully without worries, as if they are in heaven, and John, at this very moment, has already become an angel. During the execution, John requests not to wear the hood because he fears the dark and the darkness hidden deep in everyone's heart. The guards all weep. This is their last and final execution. Afterwards, they all switched careers to a juvenile correctional facility to save those temporarily lost youths so they wouldn't end up on the electric chair. On that pendant Melinda gave John, a giant is carved. Legend has it that he carried people across the river every day, but one day he was almost crushed by a child. And that child was God, incredibly heavy because he carried all the suffering of the world. The day before Paul leaves, Mr. Jingles suddenly appears again, and they leave this place together. Afterwards, in a flash, who knows how many years have passed? Everyone only knows there is a strange old man in the nursing home who is surprisingly robust despite his advanced age. Every morning, he takes 2 pieces of dry food and walks along the green grass, and no one knows what he goes to do. It isn't until the old man accidentally sees that movie again that he finally tells his story, and he is Paul. Paul takes his friend to that small wooden cabin, and what drills out of the paper box is Mr. Jingles from the story, who can still roll the wooden spool. But this is a story from 64 years ago, which means Mr. Jingles is already 64 years old, and Paul is 108. Paul believes it was John's power that extended their lifespans. Over the turn of the century and many years, Paul has witnessed friends and family pass away one by one. This is a punishment. God is punishing him for personally ending a miracle. He is atoning for this world. But even angels cannot bear the ugliness of the world. So who can truly face it all? When you grow up and see the truest, ugliest side of this world, and the beauty around you is oppressed with nowhere to rest, will you still love this world? Perhaps some unfortunate children have seen the dark side of this world from an even younger age. But haven't we all persisted until now? Romain Rolland once said that there is only one kind of heroism in the world, and that is to see the world as it is and still love it. Paul thinks he is punished with an unimaginably long life to bear the dark side of the world because he ended God's miracle. But is that really the case? Did John really give part of his life to Paul before leaving this world, just to let Paul endure pain? John is the incarnation of God, the incarnation of all love, kindness, and justice in the human world. He looks up at the starry sky we filled with reverie in childhood, but haven't gazed at for a long time. He picks up a leaf to smell its fragrance when passing a patch of grass ordinary people take for granted. He takes away all pain and leaves love to everyone around him. So when John passed this precious life to Paul before letting go, he must have hoped that Paul could continue to feel the beautiful things in this world for him. Paul just misunderstood. Just like when the search team first saw John, everyone was too narrow-minded, only believing and wanting to see what they considered seeing is believing. The search team was eager to find the culprit, so when the burly John appeared holding the girls, he naturally became the murderer. And because Paul felt guilty towards John, when he saw his loved ones reach the end of their lives and leave him one by one, he considered it a punishment. We are all like this. When we see suffering and are in suffering, we think we only have suffering left, completely unaware that this one-time life is for enjoying all the beauty in the human world. There are never any angels in the world, but in fact, we are all angels who have fallen to earth. John's ability is to feel the people around him, even to heal and bring the dead back to life. This is in the movie, a fictional miracle in the movie. And you can actually feel the people around you too, and as long as you are willing, miracles can appear at any time. This will appear in reality, a miracle in your life. And this is the Green Mile. It exists in everyone's heart, and when they connect, they can dispel the darkness in each other's hearts.